this.
I saw some clip before I went on vacation of that when the person called
Yeah, that chatter doesn't realize you ignore many streamers that try to cause drama with you because they aren't Israeli mouthpieces. Exactly. Like, do you know how many?
Oh, it is.
Do you know how many content
Did I go the
creators
right
are
way?
constantly talking shit? I don't
Never
give a
mind.
what I give a fuck is when a content creator who is prominent, who has a relatively
I was in the right
sizable
place,
audience, that is deluding them, that is lying to them about the history of Israel, that is basically doing a form of Hasbro.
Hey.
Yeah, if I talked exclusively about content creators that talk shit about me, I'd be only talking about Asmongold, probably.
that I was pronouncing something wrong or something.
Oh, yes.
And apparently,
Oh, yes.
I was trying to
You
mock
must bet
their
on a match or not, Arena.
handle on IM,
Is this
referred
the
to
Arena
it as a
Gatekeeper?
moniker,
Right.
and then tried to pronounce it in
hold on.
different ways.
I'm
And
waiting
Word to do that on.
I
Yes.
saw the clip, and it does look bad, but it also looked like a rather charitable thing. They seem pretty upset about that.
Okay.
Hello there. Welcome to the arena. If you're looking to join the arena as a combatant, you need to head down. If you're here to bet on a
Owen.
fight, that's a lot of chance. If, by any chance, you're interested in actual fighting in the arena, just head through the door here on my right and take the stairs. Have a good day now.
We are so back, baby. Hold on. Let me make that my active voice.
Yeah, the only reason I know about this is because of the song. And, yeah, but it was... See, I hope he just, like, kind of even just takes a step back. I don't really know him that well, but, I mean, it seems like he's not doing that great.
Damn, look at all this blood here.
Intervention, not saying, like,
Not the blue team gladiator.
Hail, friend. At most,
Oh my gosh, some of these people are so...
yet
The Lord's son.
I grew up here in the Imperial City, but I was born. Lady Leviticus was a shrew of a woman. When the lady learned of my birth, she was furious. My mother died recently. Before she Crowhaven is a ruined fort far to the west of here. I'd go myself, but my training regimen doesn't allow for the luxury of such an excursion. My friend, you must travel to Crowhaven and use the key to unlock whatever it is that holds the proof of my birthright. Find this proof and return it to me, and I'll share with you some of my finest combat techniques. Trust me, you can't learn.
Okay, well... That's fine and dandy, but where's... Oh, look, there's a pork chop. Where's the guy? I said talk to the guy to get started on the...
Stop talking already.
The fuck? I didn't even say shit. I didn't even say shit to you. Y'all heard me? Stop talking or bitch. I never even said anything. Not a single word. Not a single word was said.
I don't know who you are, friend, but you've got about it. You what? You want to be a Wait, you're serious, aren't you? All right. It's your funeral. Welcome to the arena. Now let me give you your battle raiment. It's the uniform of all arena combatants. Do you want a light raiment or a heavy raiment?
I think light.
A light raiment, huh? You sure? I figured you for the heavy raiment type. Put that on. See if it fits okay. You fight for the blue team. You fight against. The battle raiment covers your entire body. The battle raiment's already enchanted, so you can't muck with it. But aside from, you can compete in the arena any day from 9 a.m. If you actually manage to win a fight, don't get any ideas about. I heard a rumor that you're ready.
Ready. I'm ready, baby.
Claim that you're pro-Palestine, then show it and act like it. He just uses being pro
You haven't run home to mom? All right, maggot. Looks like when you're ready to get eviscerated.
Let's go, baby. We're so back. We're so fucking back.
And agree with it. Like he wants to have his cake and eat it too in this regard. At that point, his claim that he is pro-Palestinian becomes a shield for his propaganda for Israel.
Good people of the Imperial City, welcome to the arena. For this match, we've got some fresh meat, 2 brand new pit dogs. So let's not waste any time. Let the battle begin.
Did she just heal? Did she just fucking heal? Hold on. Am I allowed to heal? Oh, I am allowed to heal.
Being a feminist as a protective barrier to a select hand-selected few group of people that are still TERFs that actually abide by this feminism, but the narrowly defined feminism of being a TERF, a trans-exclusionary radical feminist. That's what Ethan is doing as well. It's just marketing at this point. When you say
Oh, I missed. Okay.
Victor from the blue team, leave the arena now and rest. You earn it.
I don't remember fighting people in the arena. I remember fighting mobs.
They have all basically had to shut down and have walked away from the entire whatever's going on.
They just stopped talking
in
about
Gaza.
it.
They've stopped talking about it, and
yeah,
I would imagine if they were forced
By the 9
to have to
divines,
talk
you
about
did it. You
Aren't
actually
falling for his bait
won.
by talking about him
Here,
instead of the
kid,
actual issues.
this is your payout
no,
for
not
the victory.
necessarily, because
There's-
every time I talk about this, I'm also
What'd I get?
showcasing Israeli propaganda, pro-Israeli propaganda, and how it
I'm
works.
gonna sleep for 1
He just
hour so I can level up.
continues to lash out at those
So far,
who
so
do choose to talk about Israel, because remember, it's not just about like how I'm unfairly attacking him or anything like that. He also will spend every waking moment criticizing other takes that I have as well, usually from behind a Instagram story that is very difficult to respond to. Ethan claims to be pro-Palestinian, genuinely had no idea. Yeah, he did. He did. All up and down his context nuke, he claimed to be pro-Palestinian. His new narrative is he was just minding his own business,
I'm a
and
busy
everything
man.
started when Denham's
Okay, so you're not a complete loser.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
get
also
cocky.
gross. I did not do that, and my community did not
The first
do that
arena
either.
blade.
because you have a show
Gotta
that
move
follows the news, and I don't know how much H3 follows the news on a regular basis. But if you had to talk about,
Yeah, he literally tried to deplatform me for months before the CPS call. And there was no point where I ever said anything about him or his children, or ever would have entertained something so ridiculous. So it's odd. This really sums up the whole thing. Yeah, 6 million views in 5 days, by the way. What a flop this was, huh? God damn. Already doubled the view count of the context nuke in 5 days. The like-dislike ratio ain't good. Yeah, the dislike ratio counter is not correct. It can only
I'm
make
sorry, where
an
the fuck am I supposed to
assumption
go?
on what it is. The extension is not
This
accurate.
is Crowhaven.
But I mean, I think a lot of people just want to feel like it's valid to convince themselves that this is like a dud or something, and that there isn't a lot of people
think
that
I can go
are
right there.
not on Ethan's side on this. Hide-ups confirmed the like-dislike ratio is fake. Y'all are about what do you mean? Likes versus dislikes since published 85.7%. Y'all are wild about the like versus dislike ratio. Those numbers you get from extensions are not always accurate. Also, it doesn't matter, enjoy the video. His lovers outnumber them. He's very successful and wealthy from it. He's sexiest, I'm proud of his body. Most of all, he gets to do what he loves for a living. Yeah, I mean, I have my moral convictions. I know I'm right. I've been fortunate enough to build a ginormous community of like-minded individuals who go out and take to the streets, go out and do fundraising initiatives, and try to make change that we want to see in the world. Of course, I'm going to be calm and collected throughout this entire process, regardless of the endless amount of haters that I cultivate along the way. Most of the time, also, it's pretty easy because my haters end up revealing their indecent nature fairly quickly in the process. So it doesn't continue to be an extended issue. Yeah, he says yep. Also on top of that, I have a wonderful family, with the exception of one guy. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm surrounded by loved ones as well that keep me grounded. I talk to normies all the time that also keeps me grounded. These are all the reasons as to why I don't constantly lose my mind. You know, that's it. Those are the reasons. But most importantly, I think,
deadass was not
most
expecting
importantly, it is
skeletons.
because I know my cause is just, and I know my advocacy is good, and I know that it matters, and I know that it actually has the best.
Oh shit, where did he come from?
Okay, sometimes it feels like it's impossible. Sometimes it feels like change is impossible, and yet I keep pushing, and so do you, and we do slowly but surely see results. That's it.
Calling from a 732 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Is this me?
Yes, it's you. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, I am Neville. I'm from New Jersey.
From where?
New Jersey?
New Jersey. I'm not familiar with it, but okay.
I have an accent. New Jersey, NJ.
Oh, okay. New Jersey. All right.
Where in New Jersey?
Do you know, like, I'm all near the central side, so you wouldn't know the area. It's like Monroe.
Oh, Monroe? Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. First, I want to preface, I greatly respect you guys, especially you, Sam and Emma. I love what you guys do, and your reporting on, like, everything is, like, perfect, so I just want to say keep up the good work.
We're so bad,
Thank you.
baby.
I had a question pertaining your reporting on Israel. So usually I'm fine with a lot of things you say.
Holy
but,
shit, the Timberwolves are
I
fucking me
have
up.
a
Hold
slight
on.
disagreement on this issue. Well,
Sure.
you can talk about whatever you want, but just respectfully, I just want to pick your brain on, like, how do you justify your characterization of the war as genocide? Because I'm really struggling on empathizing with this position, especially with how much, like, a lot of the evidence I've seen.
Well, I don't know what evidence you've seen. I mean, the way that I justify as characterizing it as genocide is basically from scholars of genocide. And, you know, I guess we won't have this adjudicated as an international legal matter for, you know, some time. But genocide, I don't know what your understanding of genocide is. But genocide is a legal determination that can be made if there is a series of genocidal acts that have taken place. And, you know, we just know, I mean, just in this past week,
I'm about to die.
That the two agencies most tasked with assessing these in the U.S. government had determined that Israel was essentially withholding international aid. We know that they've also used starvation as a weapon in this conflict. Those in themselves are genocidal acts, which constitute, which in my mind justify the use of the term genocide. When you kill, we have right now 30 medical professionals?
99 American doctors have sent a letter to the Biden administration, and they have basically determined that at minimum 118,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza, over 5% of the population there. And to add to what Sam is saying about the legal definition of genocide, in my view, there's very little ambiguity. that Israel has met at least one of the 5 planks that would constitute genocidal acts under the legal term genocide. Killing members of the group, you already have that. To causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. 3, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. 66% of the buildings in Gaza are destroyed. They've been cutting off water.
Holy
There's
fuck,
no medical
Ireland.
supplies. They've been cutting food. As Sam mentioned, it's now been established by U.S. organizations that they've been blocking food and medical aid. So that they've met all 3, which are all 3 genocidal actions. And then 4, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. The lack of medical care is a part of that. And 5, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. You could argue, okay, maybe Israel hasn't met that, although we do know that Israel has detained without any recourse many children under the age of 18 that are Palestinian.
I understand they fit those 5 categories, and that is a part of the genocide conventions, from my understanding. But like, to me, the important part of genocide, which is the most difficult part to prove, is the highly special intent, which is called dolus specialis. So that's like within the genocide conventions to establish
Almost.
to file like some form of evidence that they're intending to deliberately target civilians within each act.
Well, wait a second. You now listen. There's never. I mean, the idea that they that
Oh, look, I
they're
don't have any
going to
shoes.
sort of like produce a statement that says we're going to deliberately do this, but we have heard over and over again the demonization. We have top Israeli officials saying that the president of the country. Now I know that it's not as operational as the prime minister. I get that, but they're saying there's no non-Hamas Palestinians. They're saying, I mean, it's so easy to go online and find an Israeli official or
I died,
Israelis
no.
themselves or soldiers saying
Something
there's
broke.
no innocence there. I mean, the idea that there's no
let me
evidence
run it
of
back.
intent to do harm on civilians. I mean, honestly,
What is breaking
There
in
are
my
hundreds
wares?
of footnotes in that South Africa brief. I'm just going to describe a few of them. At the outset of the genocide, Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, called Palestinians, quote, human animals in his proclamation of a, quote, total siege. That's on October 9th. Netanyahu described Gaza as, quote, the city of evil. He talked about fighting against barbarians.
Oh, okay,
He
I
framed
guess
Israel's attack as a fight against,
I
quote,
can't wear
monsters.
shoes.
This is not a battle not only of Israel. This is a battle not only of Israel against these barbarians. It is a battle of civilization against barbarism, he said. Now, if you want us to produce a document where Israel says we are going to commit genocide, then under that definition that you're describing, no genocide in the history of the world would be able to meet your definition. Because when people are committing genocide, they don't write on a piece of paper, I am committing genocide. So
I agree with you that the Israeli leaders, especially when you look at Ben Gvir or what's the guy's name, Smotrich, whatever, they have like borderline genocidal statements. But I feel like when we're analyzing this type of stuff, we look at we look at an analysis of the military policy rather than just inflammatory statements.
Well,
I
we
feel like
know.
also, like,
Okay, I mean, how about 2,000-pound bombs? Like, there's no like a military doctrine coming from this country would be, aside from the fact that we're selling them to Israel, you don't drop 2,000-pound bombs in such densely populated areas. You certainly don't need a 2,000-pound bomb for tents on a beach, right? I mean, listen, here's the thing. I think getting... we have a system that's going to be adjudicating this, right? And the idea that we are not past a rhetorical use of the term genocide, to me, is really just a way for people who want to justify the absolute inhumanity and barbarism that is being unleashed by the Israeli government on Palestinians, both in Gaza and the West Bank. To me, that's just, it's a distraction.
Okay, On the 2,000-pound bomb point, just because it's a massive weapon doesn't necessarily mean it's genocidal. You can target those bombs.
No, you're
Alright, what's
asking.
broken?
I mentioned that because you're asking
Oh,
for
the shield is
for
broken.
some type of intent.
No wonder.
That shows
Yeah.
that they're intending to do harm on civilians. I'm sorry, this is just absurd. The standard in which you're talking about is just absurd.
I'm
I mean,
just asking
no
for evidence of targeting
one.
civilians.
You certainly wouldn't say that, like, because Mossad is located in the middle of Tel Aviv, that there's, that the civilians are irrelevant. I mean, this type of parsing is absurd. It's absurd.
Civilians are part of proportionality calculations. Just because it's a 2,000-pound.
Excuse me,
pound
we're
bomb
in
doesn't mean
Khmer
it's targeted.
Rouge territory now. We're in Khmer Rouge territory now. We're in Pol Pot.
Oh, I should have healed.
territory
I
in
should have
terms of,
healed.
like, the
I
amount
really
of
should have
civilians
healed.
that are
That's-
being,
that's
that are,
on me.
that are being killed. Now, you may
I
deny
could have survived that
the,
shit.
the report from these 100 or so U.S. Doctors. You may deny, because there's no way to assess this right now in any type of legitimate way. But
Should I just take it
we're
off?
in territory of, like, some of the greatest monsters in the history of the world. And so, like, to
those
parse it in this
monsters
way,
target-
honestly, dude, seriously, like, if you want to believe it's not
Those-
genocide, you can have
those
at it.
monsters
We have
targeted
this is being adjudicated by the international court, and that's where it's going to end up. But the idea that that the issue is that it's a problem when people refer to what's going on there as a genocide without the force of legal, like, I don't have the force of legality to it. The parsing that's going on here, you got to look at yourself and say, like, why do I have to get this? Why am I splitting hairs so surgically to try and claim that this isn't genocide? Okay, let me put it this way. What if it's not genocide?
What about it? What
if it's not genocide? You have such an issue with the term genocide. What if it's not genocide? Then what?
And I don't know what you expect me to say. It's a good thing.
I'm
It's not a
asking you,
genocide. I
you
don't think-
characterize it. It's not genocide. What is it?
They just killed 5.4% of the population, and it's
What
not
do you call
genocide.
that?
What would
do you
that
call
be?
that? Is that just
It's your
war?
It's your average, like, battle in an urban area where Hamas is human shielding, using civilian clothes, using
Excuse
civilian
me,
vehicles,
excuse
using
me.
civilian
Why
vehicles.
does Israel
I-
put their Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv? Are they shielding? Is that human shields? Human
If you
shields,
go in
right?
that
Human
specific
shields?
area, that's a street
So it's
away.
okay
I've seen
for
that.
Iran to bomb the hell out of Tel Aviv because we know for a fact that Mossad is headquartered there. Correct? Is that what you're saying?
The ISL is very specific about these things. You do proportionality calculations, distinction calculations, and you do
See, this is the
precautions.
point. This
Israel
is the
divided-
point. This is why I think the whole genocide thing is such bullshit. Because as soon as I tell you, let's put that aside, this is what we get. It's bloodthirsty, it's barbaric, it is inhumane, it is a war crime. It is a contravention to all human rights. It is disproportionate. It is not even remotely close to some type of symmetrical battle. It is completely being waged because of a sociopathic leader who is sitting atop a country that is trying to, justify its expansion in some areas. I mean, you're sending a bomb to the West Bank.
can you name
Give
a
me a break.
genocide where
I'm
you
done
survive?
with this conversation.
I
You had
mean, when
12
he-
minutes, and I fell for your bullshit parsing
Yeah.
of the word genocide, which was just simply cover to hide, the idea you're going to spend 12 minutes with me on something that's being adjudicated by a court because you don't want to have to address the actual reality, the actual inhumanity that's going on there. That's what that argument is about. That's why I don't really care about the term genocide,
Whatever it
because I
was,
don't
it's
care
gone
what you
now.
want to call it. However you
that?
want to parse that, what's going on there is completely inhumane. It is a war crime
Oh, he is an
on
enemy.
a daily basis.
What the fuck?
And he doesn't. The problem is like we laid out the planks and of what constitutes genocidal acts. We lay
He's
out the
naked and he's
intent.
beating the fuck out of me.
We lay out the numbers in terms of 5.4% of the population being erased in less
How
than
is he
a year
naked and
in
beating the
Gaza.
fuck out of me?
There is no world in which that is not genocide. I like using the term because I think it democratizes it and it makes people
dude posting
understand what state extermination really does look like and what we are complicit in. But when you scratch the surface, as you're saying, you know, he says, oh, this is warfare in urban areas. We just had a total freak out. I mean, again, like, if you look at the situation and it's Tel Aviv as opposed to Gaza City or Khan Yunis,
He just had a
you
fucking
know what
dagger
the
in his-
reaction would be.
Oh,
and
he's
when
a
you say
fucking
average,
vampire.
what do
That
you
makes
mean
sense.
average? This is so disproportionate that it's breaking historical records. There's no average for urban warfare in terms of combatants versus the when you just it's just you're looking for justification for you to be able to sleep at night. And
The
I'm not going
idea
to give
that-
that to you.
The idea that people need to bring up like Hiroshima or Dresden is extremely telling, because the idea that Hamas equals the Axis military machine in World War II is just absurd. This is, you know, this is like what these are the things that they have to cite. When you have to cite Dresden to justify like this conflict, you know you've got a problem. Folks, that's the look, we take calls randomly. And honestly, like, that is why I don't get hung up on the word genocide, because it is a total bullshit distraction that is used by.
Oh, wait, repair
because
hammer.
But Sam, if we were to use another word, they would deny that too. So it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's like, you know, I should have 90 seconds into that conversation, what would you call it? Well, I just call it normal. There's like, if it's not genocide, it's just normal.
Yeah.
You know, that's basically what the caller's arguing.
Bloodthirsty pedantry disguised as nuance.
Yeah. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Hi Sam, this is Nate from Florida.
Nate from Florida, what's on your mind?
Well Sam, in light of the midterms, I'd like to talk with you about one of the biggest obstacles the left has to winning power in this country, which is its antagonistic relationship with working class white people like me, and what I believe is a racist, anti-white culture within the left that is driving this antagonism.
There's a racist, anti-white culture in the left. Okay.
Yes. And to illustrate this, I want to share my own personal experience with that. But first, I'd like to talk about a study that was conducted in 2019 by Colgate University to examine the effects of teaching people about white privilege. And the reason why I want to talk about the study first is because I think the left commonly uses the theory of white privilege to justify or rationalize its contempt for working class whites.
Well,
And
let's
the
work
name of the
backwards.
study-
Hold on for a second. Before
Go
you give me
ahead.
the reason why they have contempt for working class whites, how does this manifest itself?
Well, I think my story will illustrate that.
Well, but your story is
and I
just your
apologize,
story.
I'm-
But tell me how it manifests itself, you know, in our society.
Okay, well, I think that since the left
There's
is
someone
really
here?
the main political force fighting for working class white people, what ultimately happens as a result of left-wing anti-whiteness is that white people, particularly white
Must have been the wind.
convicts and white working poor, are denied a kind of social or political agency within the
Heard
left.
what?
Because they're white.
Is it okay if I continue? Yeah.
Well, so you're saying it's not a function of they have there are black working class people whose working class status is more respected than white people's working class status, and how does that manifest itself?
By Eastmere's
Okay, well,
beard,
okay, to answer your point then, let me talk to you about this study, because I think you had a guy on from Colgate University recently. But the name of the study, if your
What the
audience wants to
fuck?
look it up, is Complex Intersections of Race and Class Among Social Liberals. Learning about white privilege reduces sympathy, increases blame, and decreases external attributions for white people struggling with poverty. Now, that title basically says it all, but what the study showed is that social liberals who were not given a reading on white privilege expressed roughly the same level of sympathy for a poor white person as they did for a poor black person. On the other hand, social liberals who were given a reading on white privilege were more likely to blame white poverty on a lack of individual merit or ability for the individual. And not only that, and this is more to my point, and I find it even more disturbing, what this study shows is that social liberals who accept the theory of white privilege have a tendency to develop a belief that white people actually deserve to be poor in a kind of moral sense. And the idea here is that white people have white privilege. Therefore, if a white person is poor, that means they've squandered their privilege. They've been frivolous. They've wasted their unearned benefits, which black and brown people do not have. And the bottom line to all of this, Sam, is that the left not only expresses less sympathy for poor white people, but more importantly, as I said, we often deny them agency in their own struggles.
Just someone's watching
And
me,
that
but I
brings me to
literally
my
don't
story
see a
about the
single
left
person.
anti-white.
Well, no,
what
wait
I
a
feel
second.
is
Wait a
people-
second. Wait a second.
Go
You
ahead.
cited a study of 1,100 people in Colgate University that it changes,
Yeah.
broadly speaking, they are more skeptical of white people who are living in poverty than they would otherwise
Not
be.
skeptical, judgmental.
Okay,
Not
more
judgmental.
judgmental of white people living in poverty. How is this playing out in the political sphere? Because I
Well,
look at
go
what
ahead.
I mean. I look at what the Democrats did in the CARES Act. I look at what the Democrats tried to do with Build Back Better, and I see not someone who subscribes to the notion of white privilege who's going around as some type of woke, but somebody who represented one of the whitest states in the country. Joe Manchin was the one who actually thwarted it. Like this was a proposal that would have put $300, would have made it permanent to put $300 per child in working class families. This is a proposal that would have reduced their medical bills. It was a proposal that would have allowed for universal pre-K.
Hold on, let me
It
see
would
if
have
this
allowed
shit even
for
works.
daycare.
And his
So, like,
reasoning,
aside from
Sure, I
like,
agree.
the
Let
me see if this
sociology,
works.
I mean, the extrapolation that
Yeah.
you're doing
Nope, it doesn't
from
work
this
right now.
Study, like
You've
there
returned.
are no
So,
political
have you been to
implications.
Crowhead?
Even if I
This
was
is
to
wonderful news.
assume that it is the
I believe I
case
owe you something,
that,
eh?
learning about
Here,
white
let me
privilege,
show you these moves. Step
in
like
some
this.
way
There you
implicates
are.
people's
Some of the-
perspective
Now, let's see what
on-
this journal says.
and judges
I'm
white
no
people in their
great
poverty.
prince.
The fact is,
I'm the spawn of
fact
evil.
is
I
that
thought my father
people
was a
who
noble.
are the biggest, I guess, sort of like the wokest people, if you will, within the context of our politics, are the ones who are pushing the hardest for those people. That's just simply the case.
Well, and I see your point, and I actually don't disagree. Like, if you ask me who one of the biggest champions are for working class white people specifically in Congress right now, I tell you Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib. Those are champions of working class white people. But what I'm talking about is that, particularly on the grassroots level, there is a reflexive anti-whiteness that I think is denying white people entry into the left as
Anyone
a
looking for work
political
should consider
movement. or
Fighters Guild.
community. And it's going to take a couple minutes, but if you let me tell my story, I think it'll illustrate what I'm talking about perfectly.
Okay, I will in just 1 second, but I just want to know when you say like deny people into the left, like you're
Or
saying
maybe
that
repulse.
I'm Bernardo.
Repulse would
I
be a
handled
better
it.
word.
they're repulsed
Leave me
from the
alone.
left because
The fuck?
Let's
because of the
defense.
left's judgment of them. Is that what you're saying?
Right. It's anti-white.
Look at my wares.
Well, I understand.
Sure,
Where
there's
does this
something to suit
manifest
you.
itself?
Can I tell you my story, Sam? I don't have a lot of work to draw on. Not many people
And-
talk about this.
Okay, all right. You can tell me your story in just 1 second, but I just want to be clear on what you're talking about. It's not anti-whiteness because these people are white, right? Who you're talking about?
Okay.
I mean, I just want to be
well,
clear.
the people who do the judging on the left can be any race.
An excellent point.
Well, all right, but in terms of the study, right?
The study. Well, yeah. The social. Are you referring to the social liberals in the study?
Yeah.
Well, reading about white privilege dropped their sympathy, their expressed level of sympathy to the same level
Drive
of
a hot
social
bargain.
conservatives. So it effectively had, it had the effect of converting social liberals into social conservatives, specifically on the topic of white poverty.
Thank you. I just feel like
what
your
reading
argument's
about
hinging
leftism.
a lot on a study from a liberal arts school that was, fairly narrow.
But all right, let's hear your answer.
Put that back, you worthless thief.
Thanks, Sam.
Somebody
So,
help! Come quickly!
When I
We've
was in
got a
high
burglar!
school, my mom, who was
Okay.
a single
Yeah,
parent,
I was
worked at
literally
a liquor
testing.
store where she made $1 or $2 above minimum wage. She
Stop
was
it.
also
You have
putting herself
violated the
through college
law.
at the time. So you have a single parent raising a teenage son, working full time, and going to college. One day, a woman came into the store and bought a 6-pack of beer. My mom rang her up, and the woman took the beer and left. A few moments later, a cop came into the store and told my mom to call her manager and tell him to come down there because she was about to be arrested. And what had happened was, the woman who bought the alcohol was working with the police as part of a dragnet type operation to catch restaurants and liquor stores selling alcohol to minors. And so, for the crime of forgetting to check an ID and accidentally selling some
slash
Bud
and
Light
smash.
to a high school senior, my mom was
I offer
handcuffed,
the finest
stripped,
goods and lowest
perp walked out of
prices
her
in
own
all
job in broad
Cyrodiil.
daylight. She was practically fired on the spot simply as a matter of corporate policy. And she had
That's a
to
good
pay
deal.
hundreds of dollars in court fees and do a weekend of community service. And if that
That's
wasn't
more than
bad
I'd
enough,
usually
my
pay.
mom was flat broke when this happened, which meant that she couldn't post bail, which meant that she had to spend the night in a jail cell for this nonsense. While I was left at home alone,
Dang.
wondering what the hell was going on. And I should say that my mom's treatment while she was in police custody was not exceptionally bad, relatively speaking. But the fact remains that the police, and by extension the lawmakers where we live, had
Thank
nothing
you.
better to do with their time and taxpayer money than publicly humiliate a poor white woman and drive her life
That's
into the
great.
ditch.
I
And what the
like
left
you
needs to
too.
realize is that there are
Don't
millions
make
of
me
white people
laugh.
in this country who have had
Is that
experiences
so?
with law enforcement
I
that are
don't think
similar to or worse than
Just
what my mom
leave.
experienced.
I don't know what that.
There are white people who have been murdered
I don't know
by
what
the
that
police,
does.
beaten, harassed, wrongfully
But I
detained,
know I fucked up.
wrongfully imprisoned, and then there are white people who have simply been punished to an excessive degree for their crime, like my mom was.
Let me.
And yet, at every
Let me try
police
this now.
protest that I've been to, and we'll use the George Floyd protest as
What
an
happens?
example, the left-wing organizers
Just
of
choose one.
these events have told me and the other white people in attendance, in no uncertain terms, that because we are white, when it comes to policing in this country, we have no skin in the game. And that if anything, because of our white privilege, we necessarily benefit from this country's legal system. Tell that to my mother. And for those reasons, our role as white people on the left is to be seen and not heard. And I'll give you an example of this.
All right,
and then
wait
I'll
a
be
second.
done.
Wait. All right.
Go ahead.
Is this the story that you were going to tell me, that the left's politics are anti-white?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're telling me a story from the 90s, where I can tell you that everything you're talking about, the concept of white privilege, was not in any way something that was talked about in any fashion whatsoever. You should just be aware of this, right? Because in the 90s, I can tell you that I was in my 20s and 30s, and that was just simply not the case. And you are saying that because these and yes, I think there's a problem, broadly speaking, with the police. There is and certainly it is the problems with the police relative to
I can eat
to
for
poor
it.
people in this country
Sure, I've
are very much
Count
parallel
Indaris
in many
recently
respects
commissioned
to
a bust of
the problems
Lafasa.
with policing
He said he
amongst
also posted a
black
guard so that
people.
her tomb wouldn't be disturbed.
I think it is.
There's a
I
rumor
think
going
Donnie
around
and
that the
Leftis would
undercroft.
actually disagree with you, Sam, in my experience.
Do you
Well, it's
believe
parallel,
any of that
but I was going to add
blessings of the shadow
the
upon you?
treatment that your mother got, had she been black, may have been far worse. We don't know.
I don't deny that.
Okay, so and you're mad at these people who these protests were inspired by George Floyd, and the people that you talked to felt like they alienated you from those anti-police things. You feel it obviously very personally.
Enough talk.
In this way, you have a unique story, at least to some degree, because as a
I don't think
child,
call that unique, but okay.
as a child, you watched your mother, suffer at the hands of police. But I would caution you from sort of like extrapolating your experience across this entire movement, and B, I would also say that, like, fundamentally, it may be the case that there are people out there, activists, researchers, authors, who are insensitive and are a-holes. But as a political matter, right? As a political matter, and maybe they're failing in some instances to develop or to navigate building social alliances in the way that they should. But I think it's like I think you're over-crediting your experience as being indicative of what's going on.
Well, so
I mean, do you argue that white privilege doesn't exist?
Go ahead.
I mean, are you arguing that
Sorry,
white
go ahead.
privilege doesn't exist at all?
Am I arguing what?
That white privilege does not exist at all?
Hold on.
I tend to, I mean, I wouldn't argue that white privilege doesn't exist. However, I think that the way, like, the political application, there's kind of like the academic definition of white privilege, which is basically like, okay, as a white person, you don't face a very particular kind of discrimination.
Which way did she
at
go?
least not systemically.
And
but then
also,
there is,
and also,
go ahead.
also,
Oh, she's right
in
here.
terms
Oh,
of
I'm
like
dead.
the sheer
Hold on, okay.
statistics, right? I mean, because yes, nobody likes to be just a statistic, but the fact is that the odds of your opportunity for success
She was
are
fucking
just
right around the corner.
far
That's
greater if you're white in this country because of this systemic racism, right? I mean,
Odds, Sam. Which
yeah,
is
no,
not a
no, I know
certainty.
nobody likes
It's
to
not
be a
guarantee.
statistic. It's not a guarantee of anything, but it is when we talk about broad, like this is the sort of, we had this with, like, the vaccination, right? I mean, like, this is when you're talking about public policy, this is what you go by, and so white privilege, we can agree, white privilege exists. So what do you want people to do with that information?
Do with the information that white privilege exists? Well,
Yes,
I want people to
and-
stop demeaning the struggle of white people. in
Well,
this
I
country
mean, I don't
by
know.
way of white privilege.
Well, okay. All right, so white privilege exists. It's certainly not as widely as accepted as it should be
Let's go.
in the
Let's go.
context of our society. But your argument is that
I might
when
try to
white
do another
privilege is
Oblivion
taught
game.
to people or expressed,
Oh,
they become racist against whites.
what the fuck? Is he just running?
Well, I think, well, I mean, for some of them, yes, I do. But I'm really talking about, I'm really here to talk about politics, man.
Okay,
I mean,
well, you're
there's
the one who
about-
brought it up
I mean,
into
last
your
I checked-
specific
Hold
stories.
on.
and
Wait, please, Sam.
You're the
There's
one who
about-
brought
Can you
it
tell
into
me
your
what
specific
armor
story. So let's talk politics. What has social liberals done for working people? We just went through that.
We'll get him.
That the thwarting of what was done for working people.
What do you want?
Was a function of a senator from the
You've
whitest,
got to travel.
most conservative senator
Can you
in
tell me
the,
where
the
Armand
Senate,
will get it?
who's in the Democratic Party, from one of the whitest states in the country.
I'm saving up enough.
So to the extent
I
that
had a
the
question
political,
about heavy
we're talking about political, not that somebody was rude to you at a protest.
Blessings of
But if we're talking
Julianos
about
upon you.
the politics that are associated.
Another
That is
member of the
politics, Sam.
Thieves
That's
Guild.
politics, dude.
Well, I mean, all right, so
Let me give you an example.
They say
Please,
that.
let me just finish my example. It'll only take a minute, okay? And you'll understand. It'll illustrate my point. The last George Floyd rally that I went to, and you'll understand why.
The
it
only
was
person.
was held in a
The only
public park
person I know
with
is in
many
Bruma,
people, and a
so
couple
I'm gonna go
thousand
to
people
Bruma.
showed up for it. And the organizers of the event invited various members of the community to come speak, so it wasn't just random people getting up and saying whatever was on their mind. And it was mostly good. It was people talking about their experience with racism and what we can do to reform the police. But then eventually, this one woman was invited on stage to speak, and she said, apropos of nothing, Sam, okay, she was not responding to anything that had been said prior to her getting on stage, nor was she addressing anyone in the audience in particular. This person said, poor white people, you all need to understand that your problems aren't important right now. And then she basically, in front of a crowd of thousands of people, and then she basically reiterated that point by comparing the struggle of poor whites unfavorably to that of black people.
Oh, why is she running?
Go ahead.
And then she finished her speech by plugging her small business.
I've heard.
And
I'm so sorry. I'm so
Instructions.
sorry you had to go
Okay,
through
all right,
this.
listen,
I'm so
listen,
sorry you had to go
listen,
through this.
listen,
I mean,
listen.
your
Take care.
capacity to make your
I'm listening.
personal just experiences extrapolative of like larger social issues is
Hi there.
astounding to me.
I'm
I mean,
really
this
t-
is just
The
like
idea that
so
that's representative.
narcissistic. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Kind of like
I was at protests. That the idea that
I
that's
understand the
representative,
Fighters
like,
Guild is-
bro.
First off, okay,
Dude,
there
it
was
my
one.
experience.
Okay, Nate, hold on
go
for a
ahead,
second.
Go ahead.
So there is one speaker
You got some
there
hot property.
out of the how many? 5, 10? That
Yeah, about that.
or 5 or 10 that
I think I
said
can move
something
this
that
item
offended
for you. I think I can
Now,
move this item
on
for
some
you.
level,
I think I
like,
can move
let's
this
be
item
clear.
for you at that price.
It was the protest
Got anything
around
else?
George Floyd and the historical dynamic of black people being policed in a much different way than white people. Now, that's not to say
I'm glad that's
that
done.
white poor people
Got some
aren't
hot
subject
property.
to problems with the police. But I think what that's, I mean, I'm just going based upon what you said. You don't think it's appropriate for this speaker
Steel
to
Dagger is
say
slightly
at this
stronger, I
rally
think.
about
I should-
George
I'm
Floyd
glad that's done.
and about
They
policing
needed
on
that.
black people
Me too.
that
Shadow
the
hide.
story of poor white people right now is not the time, i.e. this protest is not about you.
Okay.
Like
And
I
you
said,
think
Sam,
that
nobody
is-
brought up poor white people.
Who's the fucking
She,
other
Sam,
thief? I
She
don't.
brought the struggle of poor white people into the conversation just so that she could smack us down. And what was really
no, she
appalling
was not
about
smacking
that,
you
Sam,
down.
Please,
She
let
was
me
just
finish.
saying.
I genuinely
but
don't know
you-
any other
like,
members of the
I'm
Thieves
just going
Guild,
based
so.
upon what you characterized. Okay, so you didn't like the fact that she brought it in and she wanted it to be focused on the black struggle, but you don't like the idea that she mentioned poor white people.
Can
Is
you
that
tell
it?
me where Armand Christoph is
She
hiding?
made it like the thesis of her
That dude
speech.
needs to
right?
shut up.
And what it was disgusting
Okay, so you
to me
didn't
is,
like
like you
her
said, Sam,
speech, but
this was a rally for George Floyd, and she made it about poor white people as a way to demean poor white people. And what was terrible about it, I'm almost done, wasn't just what she said, which is essentially that poor white lives don't matter unless she says so. What
Oh
was
my God,
terrible
dude,
about
you're
it was the
extrapolating.
crowd's reaction.
Listen. This is you are like this is you being incredibly defensive about what
Thank
was
goodness
going on.
I
there.
found you. I
And the
assume
fact
you
of the
know
matter
that
is that we don't have
He's in hiding.
there
Armand is
is
accused
no
of stealing.
white people struggle. There,
There
may
never
be
was a client
class
that commissioned the guilds
struggle,
to steal Lathas's
but there is no white people
Armand
struggle in this country.
used you to flush out
There
an
may be
informant
people,
that
and without a doubt, there is a class
Mivrina
struggle in this
Aaron.
country, and that includes
Armand
white
needs
and
your
black
help to
working class
neutralize.
people.
plant
There
the plot.
have
He
been
probably won't
in this
believe
country,
you, so you
like you concede,
shadow hide.
hundreds
Shadow
of
hide
years
you.
of systemic,
I'm molested.
100 years of systemic
Hello.
diminution of black people in
Is
this
there another
country.
way of getting in there without like?
And both in terms of like political power, and in terms of economic power, and in terms of social power. And this is a movement that comes up once in a generation that is centered on the way that black people are policed in this country, which certainly, if we got the reforms that this would have brought about, would certainly help white people. But what you're talking about is like, you felt personally disrespected, and you are the one who is making this as if it is inhibiting the politics, presumably of the Democratic Party, to deliver material benefits
For real?
for white people who are poor.
Yeah.
And
No,
there's
not just white people. Everybody, Sam. Everybody.
Everybody who's poor.
Well, no, everybody. I mean, if we're talking about winning power in this country, we need as many
For real?
people on board as we can get. So when the left alienates poor white people, it's not just me, the guy in the crowd who got his feelings hurt.
Well, so far, I mean, it sort of
That
sounds
has
like,
a ripple effect.
I mean,
This was a record-breaking protest. What do you mean? Like, there's lots of white people in it. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, how... Like, okay, maybe there's one down because some guy got his feelings hurt because one speaker said something a little bit dumb. Like, this was a... I'm not sure, like...
It's not an
this is-
isolated event.
This
It's
is
really not
This
an
is
isolated
all in your
event.
head.
I mean, look,
Okay.
you know, it's a choice that you can make. I mean, it's honestly, it's a choice that you can make. Because what you're
I've
talking
come
about,
to you. Go ahead.
what you're talking about is
That was a lot harder than I
that-
thought,
And
honestly.
like, you're not
Now I
showing
need to level
me
up
any
again.
data, frankly, that this is what, you know, a story from the 90s
Can you tell
has
me where
nothing to
arm-
do with
What do
white
you want?
privilege. Because that story as a political
Truth
movement
is, the
or the
Legion does-
discussion of white privilege, because I can assure
know
you,
where the
it was
body-
not being discussed at that time. And if
credibility
you're
is
saying, hold on,
suspect.
if you're saying that there is a net negative
Yes.
to these rallies in terms of a political movement, you
I
need to
get
show
it.
some data
I'm not buying
that would even back that up, and I just don't think it's the case.
Well, I'm not going to speak to. I mean, those.
How do I
the
exit?
effectiveness of those rallies. I don't know. I'm coming to you. Look, Sam. I'm coming to you.
Please,
as a
I'm
working
sorry.
class white person whose mother had a really terrible life, and I've.
I
presented
can't.
that
You
to
can't exit
myself.
this. Like, there's.
And
That's
I'm
it.
telling you, from my perspective, and I have
Blah,
a study
blah,
to back this up, because
all right,
remember,
I
the,
get it.
the study that I quoted you said this is that
You know where the
teaching people white privilege
your credibility.
drops their sympathy.
So, okay,
for
so
white
let me ask you this
privilege.
question.
And then
We
I
went
gave you
over
an
that.
example
Okay,
of a person
now,
who
okay.
decided,
Okay.
I'm going to use a George Floyd
Now,
rally
okay.
to
So
smack
what
down
should
poor
be
white
done
people.
with white privilege? Should we not teach that? to
How are you?
people?
We'll get
I'm gonna try to bribe him, I guess.
Well, I just think that people need to stop treating white people.
No,
as
okay, wait.
monoliths and stop
Answer the, no.
universalizing
You're
some
citing,
racial
you're making
sentiments
this
here.
entire call
So,
based upon this study from
understand
Colgate.
each other
What is the
perfect.
answer?
I'll take
Should
that.
we not teach
And
people
thank
about
you
white
very
privilege,
much.
or should
you
we?
know where the bust. Your credibility.
I don't know. I
Yes.
just don't think that.
Well, how do you
the
not
gesture.
know
What
the
happens
answer
is
to that
that
question?
will-
It is the
thank you.
fundamental
Okay.
thing that you're calling in about.
You
I
know
get
where
it.
the-
Your mother was
your
treated
credibility-
poorly and got screwed over by
Take
the
your
system
time.
and by the cops.
Every little bit helps.
I get that. But when you're talking about a study, you're saying
You know
when
where
white privilege is taught,
your credibility.
it does this, and you're convinced that that has like major implications
Take
to
your time.
society. So what should
Thank
we
you.
do with that information about
Every-
white privilege?
That will
Do you think
get
it's real?
something. You know where the
I just, like
you
I
sure?
said, I think that the left shouldn't treat white people as a monolith and
I
should
don't
be
believe you,
more aware
but
and
I'll
more
have to
I
check it out
more
anyway.
sympathetic.
I don't believe the left treats white people as a monolith. I don't accept that. The only
Stop
thing we
right
have
there,
data
criminal.
on.
Oh my!
you're
I just
sniffing
had a
out search.
look.
The only thing
I
we have
just
data
had a
on
look.
Is that study?
Then
And I'm
pay.
asking you, do you think white privilege is real? And if so, do you think
I
it should be
literally
taught?
just looked in his pocket. I didn't
The
even touch
concept.
anything.
He already asked me this, and I said yes. But
So I guess looking is a
also-
crime now.
I mean, I think that I agree with Barbara Field's assertion that it's wrong to frame that sort of thing in that way, and that those discussions
I just
really
wanted my
should
gold.
be about rights rather than
What do you
privileges.
want?
I I'll be honest, I didn't expect this.
You were right.
Does Barbara
This
Fields talk
citizen
about
is accusing
anti-white
you
guns, though?
of stealing the
Well, but
bust of
you're-
Lathasa
you're-
from
you're-
Jaden
You're
Hall.
making it.
I even found the
thing is
bust
that,
in your
like,
cabinet.
It's one thing to say.
What do you have to
that
say?
We need to figure out a way.
Just exposed me to
of
the Thieves
making,
Guild. That
people
citizen is actually
aware
the guild member that was
of
hired to
the
do the
dynamics
theft.
of race in this
Regrettably,
country.
I have no further use for
And,
you. If
and
what
that
I heard is true,
there is,
you are the
you know,
thief.
we have a
If
problem
what you say
because
is true, the
there's a
gray
big portion
fox
of the country
knows
that is
you are my
racist,
informant.
and we
Either
may
way,
not
it's
want
over.
to alienate
You didn't
them.
really think I'd trust the
if we
likes
can
of you for
avoid it.
very long.
And how
But
can we
I've been
go about
loyal
that?
to you.
But you're making
I've
these broad
reported everything
assertions
that Armand has
that
done. You can't just
the
toss
left
me
is
aside
anti-white.
like a
and
soiled
I'm
cloth.
sorry, that's
Yes,
just
I can.
ridiculous.
You are under arrest for the theft of the bust
Holy
of
fuck.
Lathasa
It's
and
ridiculous.
Doris,
Well, it
Countess
wasn't
of
ridiculous for me
Jaden
when
Hall.
I was
Come
sitting in a
with
crowd of
me.
people and that woman said that and no one called her out on it. People were okay
I
with it.
think it's
I mean,
ridiculous. I don't think what she
booed,
said
no
was
one-
anti-white.
No one had a problem with it.
And
I don't
even if
think
it
what she said was
like,
anti-white.
It was one speaker out of 10. Like, I don't know how you think you can go to a protest and not be exposed to ideas that are, like, you know, maybe too much in one direction for you. Like, that's how this stuff works.
But I also don't even think it was anti-white.
Well, I disagree with you, Sam.
Well,
But Matt, to address
all
your
right, we're
point,
gonna let you go now, Nate.
I
You're
am.
gonna have to
I
go.
am responding. Okay.
No, I
Have a good
know.
one.
But you're white. You can't like. That was a joke. Nate, you there?
I'm there. Thanks.
Okay,
Sam.
that was that part. Last part was a joke. It was my friendly
fun,
way
it
of
was good.
trying to break the tension.
I appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
I mean, I think that you can grant the privilege, like, study. I mean, I'd like to see more stuff on that without, like, saying that the left is anti-white. Like,
Yes,
I just think
I
that's
mean,
wild.
I think
Because
it's,
of one speaker at a one George Floyd rally.
but I think, like, you know, here
And a study
is.
from Colgate.
I also think that, like, what people don't seem to understand, whether you're talking about, like, Me Too or political correctness or wokeness or, like, you know, speech, like, when a movement attempts to provide some justice in society,
Endurance,
broadly
I guess?
speaking, I think there's inevitable. There are going to be elements of that movement that go too far.
I don't
Because the fact is,
think he's gonna show today.
it's going to get
but
pulled back.
maybe
Do you want
It's going to get
something
pulled
from
back,
me?
you know, further than it should be.
Yeah, there were also
There's
like
no,
black
like,
Hebrew Israelites in the George Floyd protests, right? Like, I'm not like gonna disqualify myself from that because somebody said they're the real Jews of the Bible.
Right. I mean, look, there's an inevitability, and, like, if you're going to try and if your goal, ostensibly, and I think that caller believes it is, to create some solidarity, whether it's based on class or anything else. If you're going to attempt to base some solidarity, it's going to involve, like, having a sensitivity to the context in which these things occur, and
I think I
having
might
some
rest
empathy
a bit
and
before
understand,
work.
like,
I'm like-
when it is time or not to be centered in a conversation.
That's the thing is I mean, if you want to have an argument about how there's not enough, like, class consciousness in this
see.
country and how police also criminalize poverty and that white people who are poorer bear the brunt of that, that is a nuanced conversation. But you also have to have the humility to understand that when you are in a situation where black people have been enslaved in this country, systemically oppressed through Jim Crow, who've been denied the franchise, who, you know, don't have the
Not the
same standard of
Wabbajack.
living that white people do because of generational wealth, that there's going to be some anger, and that every protest isn't going to be specifically tailored to your own sensibilities. And you have to have,
your help,
like, just the
I know I
humility,
used you in this map.
the
Here's the reward you
historical
were promised.
understanding to
You-
go
I'm also
into
promoting
that
you
kind
to
of
the guild rank of
environment
bandit,
and put your
which will let
ego
you
aside,
use Darji
because that's
of
what
Leowin
the
as your
entire
fence.
crux of this call was, frankly, and
Darji
that's
of
why I was getting
Leowin.
so frustrated.
Sadly, I don't
was
have any.
It's
You
an
can
inability
find-
to put one's own experiences
Are you
aside to look
deaf?
at one's a racial group's collective experience in this country, and just even the focus on that, it's just like, I don't know.
I mean,
it's
look-
really detrimental to have that kind of thinking on the left at all.
And I understand why you might be offended by someone who's a business owner, even if they're black, saying we don't need to care about poor whites. And what I would say is somebody who does care about emphasizing classes, that means you got work to do. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that was the
Oh, shit.
overwhelming message of the George Floyd protest, that it's time for black business owners and poor white people can step aside. I think that's not my experience with those protests. I think there's a lot of actually awareness raised about what actually even poor whites go through. I mean, I know like Wazi Lambre talked about this explicitly on Woke Bros during the
What the hell? Am I not able to get the Mayroon's Razor? I think I am.
So let's take it slow. Let's take it easy. I don't know why you have to start with the gotcha.
But you're not even answering my question.
I know, but I don't know why you have to start with the gotcha.
Well, I'm sorry. Do you feel like it got you?
These are cringy topics. Why do you look? This is the same thing. Like, you gotta understand. If you want to have topic dialogue,
it makes me look bad. Oh my god.
No.
Okay, for sure. So like, you are like a Christian nationalist. So I would love to ask you about like your views on Christianity, right? Like, for example, I can ask you about like certain aspects of Scripture. Like, for example, 1 Samuel 15:3, where God commands Saul and his men to slaughter the men, women, and children, infants of Amalek. If God commanded you to slaughter those infants, would you do it?
So, are you running already?
What?
Are you running already?
Running from what?
So you're doing. I know you've been doing these God debates for years, right? And now your first thing, the thing you feel like you have an edge on me over, is the God debate. I never bring up scripture. I don't even actually do apologetics. I can't defend scripture because I'm in the process of learning Orthodox Christianity. So when you're going through that process, you can't do apologetics. But I know that this is the topic you've been debating for years. I'm wondering why.
Well, I mean, you brought it up on Jubilee.
I didn't bring up scripture. I actually didn't even say Christianity was true.
You did actually talk about Christianity, Christian nationalism particularly, right?
Yes, but did I say that it was true? Because now you're bringing the Bible as a presupposition that it's true.
Well, no, you believe that. Okay, why are you running away from acknowledging that you believe that? Because you're not "quote unquote" educated on the matter, and I'm going to make you look bad on it. I like how you're scared of it, and because you're
I'm not scared of the Bible at all.
Well, then,
no.
then address it. 1 Samuel 15:3, God commands the men.
Parker, let's have a good faith debate, bro. Let's have a good faith debate.
Yeah, you're not answering.
Wait, look at how you're starting the debate. You're going with a quick gotcha on like scripture.
Question?
Yes, you know what you're doing, dude. I'm willing to go over these topics. I just want to know why can't we just have a good faith debate? Like, we can take hours.
I asked you a very specific question. I asked you a very specific question. You want to debate for 5 hours? We can debate for 5 hours. I don't have 5 hours. It's 9:40.
Okay, so I'm saying I'm willing to go long term. So let's take it slow. Let's take it easy. I don't know why you have to start with the gotcha.
But you're not even answering my question.
I know, but I don't know why you have to start with the gotcha.
Well, I'm sorry. Do you feel like it got you?
No. Well, here's the thing. No, because when I don't even know. What was the Samuel one? What was it?
1 Samuel 15:3. God says to Saul, the men, women, children, and infants of Amalek.
It has no master.
If God commanded you to slaughter infants, would you do it?
Right. The reason why this question is irrelevant is because you're already presupposing that there's some sort of objective moral standard outside of us.
No, I'm asking you under your view. Would you? It's a yes or no question. Would you, if God commanded you to slaughter the men, women, children, and infants of Amalek, would you do it?
Well, God, it doesn't matter what I say because ultimately it wouldn't. According to a preferential standard, that one that you hold, the one that I'm actually willing to grant as well, it really doesn't matter what I say. I mean, because earlier you were saying in the live, correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying earlier that incest is right under your view, correct?
That's not what I said.
Okay, what was the thing you were debating?
I never once said incest was right. That's a crazy
Dean holds that position.
Crazy statement. I have not yet to answer my question.
Because I just granted it. I'll grant you whatever answer you want.
I'm not asking about granting anything. I'm asking you from your perspective.
It doesn't matter.
Would you?
I'm asking you. Look, if Christianity is fake, if
this is incredibly disingenuous right now.
No, I'm being honest right now.
No, you're not.
Because even if I was,
This
even if I saw
totally
contradictions in the Bible, I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Hunting.
Even if I saw contradictions in the Bible or things that are morally reprehensible, I still, as an atheist, have no grounding to say anything
You're
against
an
that one
atheist?
thing. You understand that, right?
Can I-
No,
you're
you
an
understand that, right?
I can see.
But then you
Partner,
can't
stop
ground
trying
your.
to get these gotchas.
But then you can't ground your
I might
abortion
know
arguments
that.
in your Christian religion.
The poor bugger was
Yeah, it's
arrested.
fine. I never grounded
Seems
it
he
in
tried to
Christianity.
use
Let's
common
do it.
knowledge
Let's
that the
make your
jailers
arguments
can
on
be
abortion.
bribed.
Hold up, before you
Blessings,
because I'd love to have
Julianos
that conversation
upon
about abortion with you. Right? You're not answering my question at all. I asked you explicitly, would you kill the men, women, and children and infants of Amalek if God commanded you?
Dude, I just told you I'll grant whichever answer you want.
I'm not asking you to grant anything. I'm asking you particularly
'Cause
yourself.
I don't defend scripture. I don't care what scripture says right now.
You don't
like
defend
I'm willing
scripture?
to grant that
Are you a
Christianity is
Christian?
false.
Are you a Christian?
I'm willing. Yes, but I'm willing to grant that Christianity is false. Who cares what I
Okay,
believe?
wait,
Look,
wait, so-
here's
so
the
then-
thing. This is gonna go down to a theological debate. You're not gonna believe in Christianity. I'm gonna say I am. Who cares? We're gonna have
What's
to go into
this about?
theology.
Dude,
Why does that matter?
It's hilarious that as a Christian, which used it in the Jubilee debate, you literally grant it as false when you know that someone who's better at arguing it than you is arguing you in front of 4,000 people.
You're arguing. You're saying you're better at arguing Christianity than
Yes.
me.
Yes.
But no,
You
because
look lost.
well, yeah,
You're
because
not
all the
supposed-
people that you debate don't know meta ethics.
Yeah,
they
we
don't
got it
understand
here
right now.
that
You
I'm going
obviously
in-
you don't know it enough.
Because
I'm
you're
I'm
presupposing that
saying,
there's some
you
sort of
say.
objective moral standard
I
outside.
wanted to see
Yes,
our
you are.
day.
Yes,
I'm
you are.
off limits.
So why are you acting like there's
I
some
have to
sort
get
of
back
like
to work
you have repugnance when you say these?
I just asked you if you did this. I would ask you if you did this.
Yeah, and
That's all
I'll
I'm
grant
asking you.
Christianity's false. Who cares? Because even if I was an atheist,
No.
you understand.
You believe
have no
Christianity's
basis
true.
for it.
Listen, you believe Christianity is true.
It doesn't matter, bro. Let's go into
Can you-
abortion.
can you-
And let's make
can you-
secular arguments.
I think
Let's
it's
see the
incredibly.
consistency of
I think
something.
it's incredibly disingenuous for you not to operate on what you believe in. You believe Christianity is true, but you're not going to operate on that.
Wait, when do I ever say Christianity is true?
You just said it earlier in this
I
conversation.
actually
asked you if
make
you
more.
believe it's true.
Thieves Guild.
I make
I went
more
to
of a
the
pragmatic stance in
Why
terms
should
of
I tell you where it
Christianity.
is?
In terms of even
Here
if
I
it was
sit in
false,
Leowin's
the results would
dungeon.
be substantially
Even
better
if-
than the
even
antithetical
if-
views.
Yeah. So again, if Islam led to a greater
You do
level
that for
of
me.
Look what you're doing, dude. You're scared to
Maybe
actually
you
debate
guild
the actual
types
topics
are-
at
Wait, now
hand.
he's now actually you're the one
Son,
submitted.
get
That's our
freedom.
Why would I be
Islam,
scared,
if
dude?
Islam led to better
Yes.
consequences,
I
would you
stopped
believe in
showing an
Islam?
inscription on
No,
the
it just doesn't
inside.
matter, bro. Because
To Alicia.
look, it doesn't
That had to
matter
be the
because
Countess
even
of
if I say
Leywin.
whatever, like Islam or
Damn
Taliban,
ring was
whoever,
stolen
you gotta
property.
understand that from your view, from
I
like
figured I
you're
would ransom
the
it
same
back
as
to the
Sam Shooter, bro. You're
Countess.
the same exact thing.
The
You're
Countess
just a
rarely
preference.
leaves the
You have
castle.
nothing outside of a preference. So even if I grant
Every
everything,
Cast
whatever, yeah, everything is
when
preference
it
to your
comes to
view.
morality, when it comes to
Gratitude.
morality, right? It's subjective. I believe it's subjective.
Everything is
what
a
you're not
preference.
doing
So look,
is when you
You're
when
not
you don't
supposed-
listen to me, you're not engaging with what I'm saying, even if it's a preference, right? Which I do believe it's a preference
I
relating
don't
to
think it
subjective
would be
morality. But
appropriate
you're
for
still
me
not
to-
getting yourself out of answering the
I have to
question
get
of
back
whether or
to
not
work now.
you would specifically be men, women, children, and infants of Amalek. I'm asking you under your preferential standard, is that what you would do?
Under my preference, yeah, let's say no.
You wouldn't. So
Yeah.
you would disobey God.
Yeah, I would disobey.
Okay, but God's always correct, right? Under your view?
Yeah, but we're still sinful people. We live in a fallen world. I can still disobey.
Okay, so
Do you think every Christian practices religion?
do you think that you should disobey?
I mean, ideally, no, but we're all gonna disobey regardless.
No, should you disobey? Or
I
should
just
you obey?
answer the question, bro.
Should you obey God when he commands you to do something?
Dude, I just answered the question.
Yes?
Did I just answer the question for you?
It's yes or no. I didn't hear you apparently.
I know. I told you we should not disobey, but we're still gonna disobey.
Okay,
That's
so
the
you
reality.
so
It's like we should not sin. Okay, let me make it simple. We should not sin, but we're still gonna sin. It's impossible.
if God commands you to kill the men, women, children, and infants of Amalek, you think under your view you should the infants, the men, the women, and the
Bro,
children?
these are cringy topics. Why do you like this is the same? Like, you gotta understand.
People like that. Oh my God.
No, they don't make me mad at all because once again, even if I
They
say
make
the
you
word
look
answer, even if I say whatever makes me look bad, whatever's a contradiction, you gotta understand from your view you have no basis. This is what you gotta understand, though, bro. This is why Charlie Kirk doesn't want to debate you. And I was actually hoping Charlie Kirk did debate you, but he finds these kind of things cringy. This is what I find cringy as well. Like you have no basis to stand. Like if you had a religion that was like you had a foundation, I would understand these arguments, but you just don't.
Religion is not a foundation. So when you say
Then what is?
foundation,
Then what is?
you mean something
So,
independent. I don't believe there's any morality
Alicia
that's independent.
Carroll
so preferences are my
covered
independent,
her
Do you think
ring.
that truth? Do you think there's any truth independent of stance from morality?
Pockets are
What do you mean?
Do you think that morality is
I
truth
don't.
independent of stance?
She eats dinner in the
Okay, so then it's
castle
true
at the
independent of what God
8th bell.
No.
You may have to
Wait,
sleep
stop.
together.
Wait, dependent upon God's
She
truth.
should know that
You're cutting out.
I've heard of a hidden torture
Of
chamber.
morality is not dependent upon God's
They
stance.
say the count
Because when,
the
okay, so let's define
servants
God.
must
What the
And
fuck?
this is the you want to talk about.
drag
I know, I
your
just
shit
want to
Critiquing the
down.
Christian worldview.
This isn't critiquing the Christian worldview, bro.
It is.
What
It's
the
not.
fuck?
Because even from your view, like it's all contradictory. You're
Blessings
walking
of
contradiction.
the
Is that true?
Let me tell you why. Okay, so there's two worlds, right? There's one world, which is a preference. That's what you're operating inside of. There's another world, which is morality. As soon as you say everything is a preference and nothing more than this, then you're already going into the purview of morality when you make an off thing. So when you say everything is a preference and then you go into the purview of morality, you're saying we ought to do this. That's contradiction.
There's no contradiction is when A doesn't equal A.
A, no,
If I'm saying that morality, right, is going to be subjective, right, that it's based upon the preference in terms of its truth value indexed to the subject, right, i.e. me or you in this particular case, there's no contradiction entailed by that. I'm going to be A,
It's saying
not A.
should. It's saying should and ought claim.
Should is not claim, yes.
Okay, and that's an ought claim. So then ought would presuppose objective morality, right? Or is that a preference?
No, it could be a preference.
Okay, so are you talking? What do you mean? How is it not?
Why are you saying ought entails that it's objective? What, are you okay?
So what is
normative judgments would be subjective from my point of view.
Yeah, so that's a preference. So you're in the same boat that Sam Cedar was in.
It's the same as God is in. God is no different from that.
No, because that's why I'm saying when we define God, we're saying that something that is mind independent, so something that is outside of us, something that is the beginning, something that is powerful. Whatever characters.
Just God of the mind.
Yes.
Okay, so is it dependent upon God's mind, the truth of morality, or independent of God?
No, it's part of his nature. It can't be separated.
What is God's nature? Do You need to ask a friend. You need to
all
Discord
good,
chat.
all good, whatever. No, I'm trying to set up my stream on here.
No, what is God's nature? I mean, you're looking it up.
I'm not looking it up, dude. I'm like recording this right now. I'm just trying to get your
You're
recording.
recording. Make you lag and not be able to answer a question when you're
No,
recording.
it's because you have me on StreamYard and then I have you on YouTube, like your YouTube live stream. So I'm trying to like get it on my screen.
Okay, so
But
you're
I don't
in
need to
good
Google answer, like, these are cringy
I
answers.
am
Like, I'm going to
Medora
actually grant all this thoughts.
I
and be like,
assist
it's
her
not cringy.
lady.
I don't know why
Answer the question. You can't answer the question.
Because you want to
all these names.
Lady Alessia frowns on her staff talk.
No, I'll grant this whole God debate. Let's go into the actual debate.
I've been hearing disturbing tales
Why would I
about.
lose it? Like, I can't argue it.
I asked
Lose
myself.
this presuppose that there's an absolute standard of truth. That which you don't have access to. Hey,
What
lose
is
that which you don't have access to.
What is God's nature?
Dude, why are you asking these cringy questions? I'm going to cringe. Let's concede that
Say
God
what
is
you're
not real.
going to say.
You happy now? So let's argue
I'm not
that
Sure, that's
The
cute.
only reason I muted your mic now is because you're purposely choosing to not engage in this conversation because you know that you're outclassed.
That's
You know
just
that you have a good
talk.
position.
No, I've actually listened to many hours of your debates, of Ian's debates, of Dean's debates on God. I actually know you guys in and out. They're just cringe.
Stop just calling me cringe. Respond to my
They're
question.
just cringe. You're like, that's what I'm going to concede them.
Hey, I'm sorry, Elzar. Every single Christian that literally is going to be understand will think you're stupid if you can't tell me what God's nature is.
I don't care, dude. Like, I don't care what they think.
Tell me what God's nature is.
It's all preference. So even if I say his nature is like the spaghetti monster,
No,
you're
I'm
good.
asking you. No, that's we're not.
How the
we're
fuck do you like go back?
I'm not asking you from prescriptive.
No,
I'm
I'll concede God. I'll concede the whole God thing.
not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to engage legitimately with
Okay, dude, I know, let's have a good debate, but like,
it's not good faith.
do you see why Charlie doesn't want to debate you though?
Because I hold you to like actually answering about your
No, like, no, because these just aren't like, they're just like
Don't
gotchas. Like, they're not fun.
waste
They're
your
not flattery
flattery
on
on me.
asking what God's nature is a very fundamental question in the theological debate. So if you can't answer what God's nature
What did I tell you?
is, you're literally gaslighting me. And you're saying that like I'm the one asking cringy questions, or I'm not asking legitimate questions, or I'm like not engaging professionally. I'm asking what God's nature is in a philosophical
It's a
conversation about
matter
theology.
of trust.
Yeah, because these are the quick gotchas that you're used to. That
That's not a gotcha. I'm asking you what
Lady
nature is.
the fact that
Alessia.
you're not engaged in apologetics.
Okay, well then why do you do that when it comes to
Because dude, that's why I just told you at the beginning. I don't say that I'm engaged.
because you know that Sam is informed of theological debates as I am. That's why you're going to debate him against.
No, actually, if you were in that Jubilee one, I would have done the same thing.
You wouldn't have.
I'm not.
Okay, well,
Thank
let me tell you why.
you.
Because I do.
How
If you go watch all my
kind.
YouTube debates, I do the same exact thing all the time because I cannot engage in
The
apologetics. I can't
Countess
engage in
has a
the results
secret
of the fact. So I
passage
say even if
somewhere in the
Christianity was true, X, Y, and Z,
basement
or I
that
mean even if Christianity was not true. So
sometimes I
I
can-
don't defend Christianity. I make secular arguments.
Countess Carol was so relieved to have, not all the time, I mean, she puts it in her jewelry box for bad night.
No, there's no consistency or coherence for you that matters to you because that's the
No,
second
I'm going to
argument
tell you why I
that
can't engage in apologetics, okay? Can you listen?
Good.
Okay,
Morning,
I would
she's
like what you would have called
she
Protestant.
travels
I'm
to-
studying Orthodox, we're not going to an Orthodox church. When you're going through this process of potentially becoming
However,
Orthodox, you cannot engage in apologetics because you cannot make a look bad. If I say something that I'm not informed on, or I say it in a way that a better theologian like Dave Dyer would be informed on, that's going to make the whole church bad. So I look bad. So I can't engage.
Morning,
So that's what I
she's
do.
at
Like,
the
if I say yes, I'm
town
a Christian nationalist and I make these arguments, I'm
At
making
the
secular arguments.
castle, she hosts the
So then
evening
you're
meal
essentially
at
saying
8.
that you are not willing to engage in any
She,
conversation about your
she
Christian worldview
travels
unless
to
you're debating Sam Cedar or
Coral
someone
on
that
the
might not be
Ides of
informed on theological
every
nature of
month.
these debates.
Well, if you
Don't
listen to
even
Sam Cedar,
try
I
to
don't believe in
find
Christianity
the
will fall. I never said it was
13th
true.
and 17th.
But you utilize Christianity as a basis because you were saying that he doesn't have a
No,
basis. because
I
it's
know,
worldview.
and I never said that I had a true basis.
You did, yes, you did. You said that you have a foundation that he doesn't have a foundation.
Okay, yeah,
You said, I watched this debate. Why are you gaslighting?
Okay, did I say foundation or true foundation? Because you said you have a foundation.
Okay, so your foundation isn't true.
No, well, do you have a foundation?
What is a foundation?
Hey, Parker, do you have a foundation?
What do you mean by foundation?
Let's say the base, like the premise of everything.
Premise of everything. I'm confused what that means. Like, are you saying where you get the truth from when it comes to morality?
Like the basis. Do you know what a basis is?
Yeah, yes, I understand in the way that I use the term. I'm clarifying how you're using the term.
Tell me how you use it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to refer to like a subjective morality, right? That's what I'm referring to as a basis. Typically, they're asking like, what is the meta-ethical equal to?
Yeah, so let's just say like from a foundational view, let's just say something that doesn't really change, like something that doesn't change. So like from a preferential view, we would have to admit that they're going to change.
I don't know what you mean by they're going to change. Like, just me having a subjective view or preferential view doesn't mean that it's going to change in the future. Like I could have the same view throughout my whole life, right? From now on.
Yeah, I know, but that's not. Is that a foundation though? If they're willing to change, like if they're capable of changing constantly?
It depends on how you mean by foundation means that it's not going to change.
Yeah, as an audit, it shouldn't change.
As an audit should it change? Wait, are you saying that you can't have different normative judgments at different points in time?
No, I'm saying like right now, if you and me view, well, we can say something, but if we think that is wrong, and then tomorrow it could be right, would you say that's a strong foundation?
Murder?
Yeah.
Well, murder by definition is unjustified, right?
Well, then we would presuppose that justification has some sort of ontology outside of just your preferences.
So what by my ontology what are you referring to? You said you're referring to the nature of it. I don't know what you mean by the nature of it. Context.
Yeah, so like well, I guess justification could be a more deep philosophical term, but I mean there's different ways of justifying it, right? So if I say, give me a justification, we might say like good reasons, give me a good reason as to why we are not using it.
Like a reason why, I mean, but like for you, the only legitimate reason is just religion.
And then to you, it's just my preferences. So I guess you have to both.
Well, either of us can meet that standard, right? I'm just asking what your preference is versus what my preference is, right? And then we can talk about each other's view and internally critique it or whatnot. But when it comes to your perspective, you're not actually engaging with any of that because you're only willing to accept it if it's religious in foundation.
I don't know where you
But if you're only willing to accept it based on its religious foundation, then why aren't you willing to argue the religious foundation? That's my point here. I honestly think it's to a point where it becomes dishonest. I understand you're saying like you want to look more into it, you want to do more research on orthodoxy, but
it's not that I want to.
Shouldn't you do the research before you hold to the view?
No, that's actually a good question. If I was on my channel teaching Christianity and teaching people to be Christians, then yes, I would definitely have to. That would not be a good process. That would be really bad. If the church doesn't specifically appoint me to be in a leadership role, then that would be bad. I don't do that. I just go over facts.
Okay.
But hold on. Can we at least agree then? Like let's, because I can't even if you were open right now and you were asking me good faith questions, I can't prove to you that God is real or religion is real. I can't prove that to you because it's still gonna be like a long theological debate that you might still need some sort of supernatural experience. Who knows? Whatever you would need. So can we at least agree? Even if we say that Christianity could or could not be true, we still ought to have good reasons for why we do something.
He's trying to tell me to go to the base.
I mean, you don't need good reasons for everything. For example, if I'm just walking down the street, I don't need a good reason to walk down the street, right? Like it's amoral.
Okay, so then, like, at what points are we gonna have some sort of arbiter of truth, or what is a good reason for when we kind of should impose a good reason on someone else?
Well, like when I'm evaluating, like we're talking morality, we're talking good reasons for morality. Like I'm gonna evaluate that based on what's indexed to myself. So we'll compare based on our own views, and then we can give intuitions. Like I'll give you a hypothetical based on your own view, right? Like something that would logically follow given your view, right? Based upon your reasoning, right? right? And that could conflict with your own intuition. That's how it can convince you otherwise, right? But it's predicated off of your own intuition, your own view. So we're gonna have a conversation based on what are your own view, what is my own view, and let's compare and contrast. 'Cause, I mean, there's gonna be some values that we both have, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna share values. So oftentimes I'll be like, oh, actually, like what you're saying there doesn't actually uphold with like our shared values. So given that it's uphold with our shared values, this would make more sense to uphold with those quote unquote shared values.
So you're saying like my values have to be kind of contingent on yours and vice versa?
No, they're not contingent on either. That's just how the conversation operates. Like, we're just gonna compare each other's values, and then we can have some shared values, and based upon those shared values, we might be able to convince each other of a different like way of looking at an issue.
But you know they're all contradict each other, right? Not just between you and me, but between everyone in society.
Not always, but there are going to be contradictions. Again, some share shared moral beliefs, right?
Okay. Can I share something with you within that and see if we can find common ground? And I like debate discussion. We can get heated, bro, but I also like debate. So I like fun. I have fun with these stuff. I thought of something which is called the law of contingency. So as a society, we push that there's these ideas of rights, bodily autonomy, etc., which I would disagree with because I would say that we are all contingent upon one another. So like if I poison the water well, it's gonna poison the water for the rest of society. If you own a house and there's like HOA, you have to adhere to certain policies. Why? It's your house. It's your own responsibility. It's your own freedom. Well, it's because there's probably certain responsibilities that you have to adhere to for the rest of society. Could that be coherent under your view?
We have to flesh out like what we mean by like this in terms of contingency. I wouldn't accept any principles. I'm a particular, so like
okay.
I'm very much someone who's not going to accept like principles.
Okay.
But like when it comes to like any type of abortion argument, where we're going to disagree is the moral value placed upon the entity. I value until sentience.
I know, but real quick, because I want to go into it. I'm just trying to think of the law of contingency would have to, because like you and me to not murder someone, it's because society is dependent upon contingency. Would you agree?
Say that one time.
So like we're gonna say that from a secular view, we ought not murder other people because
I might have to kill them.
Or we're contingent upon the rest of individuals to make it to society.
So because we're contingent upon other people, we shouldn't harm them. So if you were not contingent upon them, is it okay to harm them?
Well, that's what I would be asking you, right? So like,
that's not my perspective. I don't hold the law of contingency.
I know, so that's why I'm asking you. Like, I'm saying outside of that, like, what's a good reason for why we shouldn't murder someone else?
So when you ask for like what's a good reason why we shouldn't murder people, right? Yeah. These are inevitably going to boil down into base intuitions. The same thing with the abortion argument. It's going to be a base intuition, right? That you see sentient human life to be valuable. This under this certain condition, it's going to be a disjunction into a conjunction between past, present, and future subjective experience. So that set of conditions will grant it value. These are going to be you're reducing us down to these base intuitions, right? That inevitably that there's not going to be a reason for it. It's going to infinitely regress, right? And that's true for Christianity too, because I believe that. I mean, we don't get into, I don't get into the argument to talk about Christianity. I'm just saying the same thing is also applicable to God's mind, and that's what I would think as well from that perspective. So this argument doesn't seem like something you argue from a secular perspective, like make it seem like my position's worse or something.
Yeah, which is fine. I actually wasn't asking that question in regards to the abortion because I'm not trying to get like a sleazy gotcha on that. We can have the gotcha in a bit, but within this specific, I guess to understand, you're not saying that we have like a principled reason as to why we not murder someone. It's just more like whatever traits you just have listed, right?
Yeah, it's intuitive case to case, and it's predicated off of these set of traits that I could consider valuable for human beings. Again, that's intuitively, like this is one of those base intuitions, the same way we value human beings over types of other animals. Base intuition. I mean, the reason we can provide that is we're other species in which meets a particular threshold of rationality. But again, why do we value that trait? That's just going to value that. That's going to reduce back down to a base intuition.
But intuition, don't you think that needs justification?
Well, it depends on what justification. It's like non-inferential.
Yeah, because that's still going to kind of take us back in the circle, right? So like if I have an intuition where I want to go and I want to use a sword and slap everyone left and right on Friday nights, we probably say that isn't a good intuition.
Yeah, we would agree. That's predicated off for our intuition. So although like, I would, like you're trying to find some way of differentiating between the views, and the way that I differentiate is predicated off my own perspective. So like we're just going to explain our different views, and we agree or we disagree. What you're looking for is like how you resolve a disagreement. Yeah. Like a moral disagreement. Well, some moral disagreements there aren't like
you know what?
Resolving.
There's nothing in there that's.
This is what I'll get to go into, but I just want you to see like this is why it's hard for me to have these long form debates even though they're fun. Because we're going to kind of be talking in a circle. So like if you start drawing a line, well I'll show you how. If we start drawing a line right now, I'm presupposing there's like a finish line, there's like an endpoint I'm trying to get to. So if I start drawing a line, I'm going to draw a circle, I draw a square, a triangle. There's usually a goal. But with us, like to install a preference, and there's no ultimate goal that you have from like a secular view, and I'm willing to like you can take this position too. There's not going to be any end goal that we have. So if I say like, hey, abortion is wrong, you think it's right, we're just going to try to have decisions, but ultimately you kind of admitted that it's just kind of like whatever our intuition is. So that's why it's going to go in a squiggly line.
So like we can in this scenario then provide like examples as to why it's more graphical. Like an example I can give you is like why is it okay under your perspective to pull the plug on an individual in your family that's brain dead? Why is it not?
Can we start with the foundation first and then get there?
I do think this is foundational based on what we just talked about. So like,
not really.
I'm giving you a hypothetical to explain what I'm saying to you. So like what we can do is.
So let me explain it before I answer. So I would say with abortion there's an intention, right? So there's like a deliberate intention. With the brain dead patient one, there isn't an intention. It's more of an unfortunate circumstance. Like even if you ask me if there was like 10 embryos and then there was like one 5-month-old, which one would you save? We would still say like this is a hard decision, and it might go down to my own selfish desire. That's probably rooted in scripture, but it's just a difficult situation to answer. Would you at least agree with that?
You could say that's a difficult situation to answer, but like I don't think that you can judge it based on quote-unquote deliberate intentions. And the reason why I don't think you can do it based upon that is because there is a deliberate intention to pull the plug on an individual in your family that's brain dead, and you do so, which will inevitably lead to their death. Right?
Yeah,
like,
I know we have free will. Like we're actively deciding to engage in the act. So like let's say it's my mom that's a brain dead patient, right? Do you think that I want to pull the plug, or do you think that it's just two unfortunate circumstances that I'm kind of having to deal with that I have to make a decision on one?
You want to do it based upon these set of circumstances.
No, because you're acting like I want to. Like if that's my mom, or even my wife, let's say, or even my kid. If that's one of them, do you think that I'm gonna want one of those unfortunate circumstances?
In that same tense of want, you could say that like a woman getting an abortion doesn't want for like the zygote or the embryo to die. That's just an unfortunate circumstance that's necessary in order to end the pregnancy.
Yeah, but like even that. Okay, so let's say let's say you're hypothetical. Brain dead patient somehow became brain dead through like a car accident, right? There was nothing that I could have done to prevent that or act inside of that to make any decision to stop that, prevent that. With abortions, you can.
Wait, reset that one.
So if my mom is a brain dead patient, she got into a bad car accident. Now I have to make a tough decision that's gonna break my heart regardless. I didn't get to act in the middle of that process to prevent her being in a car accident. Within the abortion itself, you can choose to not get to step 2, which is fulfilling the preconditions to actually getting pregnant, which is having sex.
Well, you could have said the same thing about the woman who drove on that day. They chose to drive.
How is that my fault?
So you're saying the fault of the person has to pull the plug?
Yeah, because you're saying I have to pull the plug, right?
Okay, so then like I can give you an example. Like there would be like I can give you an example of like a doctor that pulls the plug on actually not a family member. Family member that pulls the plug on a what's that?
You're still gonna move the problem back to another person.
I was trying to give you an example where there isn't a person because you're trying to say that the other person being there somehow makes that set of determinations differently, correct?
No, I'm saying like if it's my mom, she's all alone in the car, she's driving, she gets in a bad car accident, she wasn't anticipating, nor did she know that could have happened. Obviously, you're always running the risk, but we never would have imagined that I'm gonna be there having to make a tough decision afterwards. I'm saying, how do I have how am I?
We could imagine that. I mean, you're not necessarily at fault of that. I mean, you would say that like you'd be at fault under your view for pulling the plug because they could still continue to stay cellularly alive.
Right, but just being like very good faith, when you at least agree that I'm still dealing with 2 tough situations that I didn't have any say in that until the very end.
I don't see how that disputes what I'm saying.
Well, I don't see how that justifies abortion either.
I'm not saying it justifies. I'm confused with your point here. I'm just saying that like the reasons that you are going to provide for like why you think it's okay to pull the plug on an individual in a family that's brain dead are very similar reasons to why I say that it's not valuable up until the point in which it has subjective experience.
No, because I would say that once again, one is like if we went to what we were saying earlier, which if everything is subjective, we all have good reasons for why we do something. Then I think we should argue within that purview of, okay, if there's going to be an abortion that's had, what constitutes a good reason for having? Is it just financial stuff? Is it just freedom? Is it liberty? Like what is a good reason? So within this example that you're presenting towards me,
Any reason prior to sentence is a good reason.
Okay, so let me ask you a line of questioning real quick, and we can just break this down, yeah? Okay. Well, and by the way, because I want to have good faith. Do you feel like I know I didn't answer the hypothetical the way you wanted, but do you at least understand where I'm coming from?
Not quite yet. That's why we're clarifying here.
Okay, we'll go over it. So can we define murder first? Would you agree that's like a premeditated, unjustified taking of a human life?
Unjustified killing of a human being or a person.
But with person, you're presupposing that personhood is required, right? So, and that would be after the sentence mark.
Past, present, and future subjective experience, along with being a part of the human species.
So you're kind of taking that to be like universal truth in a sense.
What do you mean?
So like that definition would, like when I said premeditated, unjustified taking of human life, you disagree with that? You have to put in the personhood.
Well, I mean, like, it's not just going to be premeditated, in which, like, I believe it could be murder without it being quote-unquote premeditated. I mean, it depends on how you define premeditated, but like, I'm just saying, like, unjustified killing of a person is going to classify under definition. That's what
Right,
define.
but when you're saying person and I'm saying human, we're both now arguing different things.
Yeah, we're using different words, yeah.
No, I know different words, but I'm saying like, are we arguing a different thing? That's just what I want to understand.
Yeah, I mean, what we see as people are different, I mean, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so then you say
like, not all members of the human species are people, right?
Okay, then so that's what I'm saying, like, I don't want to talk over each other.
Yeah, like a cellular human zygote at the point of conception, I don't think is a person. You think that's a person?
Yeah, but hold on, so you do agree that life is acceptable, right?
Do you think it's for women to have IUDs?
No. But hold on,
like not making it
you said you were going to just go through a quick line of inquiry. Yeah, I just want to lay the groundwork, like, I'm happy to go through all that. I already know the IUD one, like, Dean makes that one like 24/7. That's what I'm saying, let's just have a good faith, like, you're trying to have these quick gotcha. I'm not even trying to have a gotcha here, I just want to lay the groundwork.
That's not even a gotcha, I'm just clarifying.
It is a gotcha, because I asked you, hey, can we go through this line of inquiry, you said yes, and now I'm trying to like go through it slowly to understand. So just don't talk past it. No, it's all good, I just don't want to talk past it. Like right now, if we're trying to define personhood and human, we're both going to talk past it because we're kind of committing like I think of a different concept when I think of a word, whereas you do with that thing, right? But we have to agree like so can we agree that that's
that you use this ring much more wisely. I use it to collect, get me that ring.
Well, I'm just making a distinction between cellular and sentient life. That's the only distinction.
Okay, so
you know, I don't think
okay. But because then you're saying okay, so let's go back to the 20 to 24 week mark. This is when you say that they gain sentence.
You have earned the reward.
Is that like what you mean by that is like qualia?
The thief's skill was
like this, like can you define your significance like when you attribute value?
Swift hunting.
Okay, and so this means that as soon as it meets that specific conjunct, then after that anything that we do to that is immoral, correct? Or it's a person, therefore anything is morally wrong.
I'm really confused with the way that you refer to that. It's a person when it meets that criteria of past or present future subjective experience and being part of the human
I
species.
fucking hate pickpocketing in this game. It's so fucking ass.
Kind of like what Destiny debates.
That's just past or present future subjective experience.
Okay, so like with quality, then what I was saying about quality would be like its ability to have subjective experiences. Would that be a fair way to explain it?
Like the ability to have it. I mean, I prefer my way of referring to it.
Which is
just past or present and future subjective experience.
Yeah, but how do you prove whether a fetus has or lacks sentience?
Has or neuroscience?
Yeah, and having like an exact time frame?
20 through 24 weeks is the typical view amongst like what's most common amongst neuroscientists. I know that you have like some crazy views on science and stuff because I saw like the Dr. Mike debate.
You're not even anti, right?
I'm less skeptical about vaccines than you are. Probably.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that like I'm super. I think I wasn't super against, but when I saw like a specific political shift or like how hard they were shutting down people's throats, then I started getting more skeptical. But I definitely am not anti. I'm not stupid. Yeah, that's what I'm But going back to like I am curious, why don't you want to go into like the quality? Because isn't sentience essentially similar to quality or to quality?
It's just like I feel like we're trying to use terminology that makes it less clear when we say qualia compared to just referring to how the way I refer to it. Because the way I refer to it makes it most clear to the audience, and I also do think it makes it less likely that there's like a misunderstanding between us.
Okay, because what I would get to like if sentence seems immeasurable, like I know you gave like a 20 to 24 week mark, which is when these neuroscientists say that it begins.
Or like, are you asking like what parts of the brain lead to the subjective experience?
No, I'm asking more the time frame because this is a very specific straight mark, right? And we're actually, I don't know if you agree with this, but we're kind of debating over something very important, which is the human life, which is the person, what you would say, right? So I think we should be very specific on this time frame. So sentence doesn't at one point all of a sudden just start. It's like an evolving process. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's why there's some conservative like aspect to it where I'm saying 20 to 24.
Right, but okay, so then let's find common ground here. Then. If it pushes up to 25 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, even 9 months, would you still not give that fetus personhood?
9 months if it doesn't have sentience?
This is why it's hard because this is one thing we're going to go in a circle because you're saying if it doesn't have sentience, but do you mean by sentience that it's developed the full capacity of having sentience, or just like deploying a little bit of sentience?
Any little bit.
Well,
so just any little bit. Okay.
I understand the fighter's guild is higher.
Because this is why I want to understand this. If there's like a 29-week-old fetus that has just a little bit of sentience, and someone wouldn't want to get an abortion, she should be tried, right?
I am promoting you to.
Let's say 29 weeks.
If they get a lethal abortion?
I've been hearing disturbing tales.
I mean, if it's non-lethal, like just termination
You
of pregnancy,
are
where at that point you give birth, it's just an
or
induction
at
labor,
least
that would be okay.
gold is the blood.
You wouldn't do lethal abortion at that point, you would just do slavery. So yeah, I don't think you tried to do a lethal abortion, given that it wasn't medically necessary.
I don't have.
Well, okay, so if it's not medically necessary, you would say that she should try to
Apparently some fool tried to resurrect the crimson scars in Deep Scorn Hollow.
I just want to make sure that like, if there's women out there that say like, I want a 6-month abortion,
Take care. I'm Bogan.
And I'm not saying they are, I'm saying like, I'm asking to see the consistency here. If they say if.
At that point, it would just be induction labor, you know that, right? At the point which it's viable, they just do slavery, they just cause early birth.
Apparently so.
Okay, but I'm asking like an abortion. If it's an abortion, I would say
Hell is
unborn human. Can we agree on that?
Well, then if you're talking about the intentional, right, then that would be wrong in that scenario because you could just
300
because it has to leave the body either way. You have to give birth to it either way. You give birth to it alive or give birth to it dead.
Right, but you know what
to give birth to it alive.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like if a woman says I want to end this pregnancy in terms of like the unborn child,
you can end the pregnancy without the unborn child. So there's a standard.
Alright guys, I'm in the stream. Thanks for anyone who stopped by. I just wanted to test to make sure that